Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie writers on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Rhonda Hagerman, and I write fiction and nonfiction under the pen name Dee Dee Bowman.
Well, we are missing Miss Christina Catane, but she is off being a jet setter, enjoying some time with family. So we're very happy for her and sad for us that she is not with us today, but we hope she's having a tremendous time and is able to tune in. We'd like to welcome everybody to the podcast today, including our chatters. We have an excellent and active chat every Friday. Hi, Piper and Shell and Liz and Gigi and Jason. So far, they're making up the chatty crew. If you can tune in at 10 and join our live chat on YouTube, we appreciate that. We also appreciate anyone who's listening later on iTunes or any of the other places where we can be found. If you are catching us on YouTube, we'd really appreciate if you'd hit the like and subscribe buttons. You can also sign up for our newsletter on our website to be sure you never miss a single episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. So we start every episode with a segment we like to call What's Up? It's where we check in with each other to find out, well, what's up? So what's up with you, Jen? Things look a little different.
Yeah, Piper pointed that out. She says, Jennifer, you are in a different room. I am. And if you've been following along, you know that we've had, I've had some issues at the house here. We lost power and our basement flooded and I had to clean all that out. And then our septic started backing up and then got that pretty much figured out and discovered mold. Mold has started to grow up our walls. So we have been all week removing mold and we are not finished. And so I'm upstairs in my dining room right now. So that's where I'm at. And yeah, so that is my what's up. The ladies wanted me to talk about how I sing to my chickens. My what's up.
But Rhonda wanted to know the story of the beautiful furniture piece behind you.
Oh, okay. So if you subscribe to my newsletter, over a year ago, I purchased this piece and I shared it like kind of that I was starting to work on it. And this is as far as it's gotten. Like, it is cool looking, like that it's all roughed up. I actually do kind of like that. Let me move out of the way a second. Like, and I do have all the drawer pulls and everything, but they're not in there. But I'm supposed to paint it and stain the top, and I just haven't done it yet. I know with all this extra time that I have, like, not busy doing anything else. But so I don't mind how it looks, but I do want to finish it so that it's more protected and like that. But it was in rough shape when I bought it last year. So that's why it looks like this, but it will get painted and then kind of roughed up a little bit again. And then a dark stain on top just to keep it with the look of the rest of the room. So.
Wow.
That's it. That's all I got going on. Except for unless you guys trying to hear my chicken song.
Yeah.
I told ladies that I sing to them because I walk out there and I should take pictures of what our chicken coop looks like, but it's like it looks like a dollhouse from the front, and it's like a storage, and you walk into the storage so that I can like pull the string to open up the door so they can go from the coop down into the run, and they're all like this, looking at me like they're waiting because there's like a little window where they can see me coming in, and then I always like, good morning. How are you? It's so nice to have you here with me today. This is what I sing to my chickens. Like, it's so weird because no one else is up that early. Like, no one in the neighborhood or anything. And I'm out there singing to chickens. If my neighbors ever heard, they'd probably like really have some opinions about me. But oh well.
Well, you're just one of the group, one of the flock.
Yeah, I am. I'm the queen hen.
Well, there's lots of compliments for your buffet in the chat.
Thanks, guys.
So, and also a lot of commiserating for the finding of the mold. So, yeah.
Appreciate it, guys. I just really appreciate your prayers. I honestly, it gets to the point where I know I'm generally a positive person, but it gets to the point where you're just like, can I just catch a break? Can I just catch a break? I just want one project done. Like one project in this house done, but something always happens. So we still have a tree down in our backyard. Half of it's getting taken care of, but there's still a tree down, and the coop's not completely finished because life happened and we haven't mailed. Like, we don't have the egg hutch. because they weren't ready to lay eggs. But guess what? They're ready now. Like, so we need an egg hutch on it. So it's just life. Like, these are things. I was telling the ladies this before. This is just stuff that I can complain about. Like, we're healthy, we're good. So all this can just happen. If this house fell in on itself, it's okay. We're still good. We'll go live with my parents, whatever. It's just stuff. And I don't want to worry about stuff anymore.
Good for you. I'll take my what's up next because it kind of feeds into it. As I'm dealing with my own personal challenges, aside from pressing into God and the Bible, which is very important, of course, I have been indulging a little bit of my, I don't know if it would be my intellection or my input, but I have been studying Stoicism. And if you've not ever heard of it, it's very ancient Greek philosophy founded in something like 300 BC. Aristotle and all of them people, see how I barely know what I'm talking about. But the philosophy is basically safe harbors, don't make strong sailors, and sort of embracing the suck of life because you know that it is through your trials that strength and virtue are formed. Because how do you know the mettle of your character if it's never tested? So the goal is to sort of not be in denial that bad things will happen to you and to not deny that bad things are going to happen to you. But I think the ultimate goal is to actually sort of say, bring it on, life. Because what is life other than really living, which is the good and the bad? So to that end, I wanted to share this little sort of illustration. I was watching TikTok of all things, and this person pointed out that when scientists tried to make biodomes and they put trees in them, they all died because there was no wind to bend them and to strengthen them.
Oh.
So, I don't mean to sound insensitive about what you're currently enduring, Jen. Of course, everybody would just prefer pain to not happen and pain to stop. But I just thought if anybody else wanted to look into the theories of Stoicism, I'd be willing to chat with them about it.
That's awesome. All right, before we move on to the chat, my girls were homeschooling now, and our Bible curriculum is actually, we're using the Bible quizzing curriculum. My girls are my high schoolers, my middle schooler and high schooler are in Bible quizzing. And we're in Romans right now, and in Romans 5, and everything you're saying just completely gels with what Paul is saying too. Romans 5, 3 and 4. It says, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who is given to us.
I love that. I love that. And like I said, I wanted to bring up my Christian faith first, because anytime you dabble into any other kind of philosophy, people get cringy. But I want to say, I remember in the Bible in Acts when they showed up and they saw this monument to the unknown God.
Yes.
And I think that the Stoics, which the word comes from something like the porch, where they used to gather to talk about it, because they didn't want to base their philosophy on an individual, because they knew that individuals had flaws. I would sort of believe that these were people who didn't know Christ, but who understood some very fundamental truths of the Christian faith. And it's so far been very aligning and been very useful for me. So thank you for providing that scripture to sort of back that up.
Yeah, I was sharing that because in agreement with you and what you were saying. Like,
yeah, for sure.
100%. Okay, so now on to the chat. Some what's up. Piper says, what's up? I've been preparing for 20 books to 50K Vegas in November. I will be videoing sessions during the conference. There are extra conference meetups happening. Getting excited. That's so
awesome.
I've always wanted to go to that. Like, just don't know like if I could take the time or the money to do it, but I've always wanted to go to that.
We were just talking about how if we got you out west, you might never want to come back.
Right? Yeah. I never thought about Nevada.
Yeah. Maybe that's a future plan.
Maybe maybe next year Piper and I will meet up there.
Ooh, lots of people in the chat telling Piper that sounds great.
Yeah, but I might rather meet up with Piper in Boston, and you'll enjoy my sprint today, Piper. Gigi says her what's up. Just got back from Smoky Mountains with the Grants. Another place it'd be so great to visit. Beautiful setting for writing, but didn't get much done. Too much fun with the littles. I bet I could not. I don't know that I could even. Yeah. Shell says her what's up. Got my blog post done finally. Awesome.
She
Good for
did
you.
it.
Oh,
she has a beautiful blog, by the way.
Does she?
Yeah, like just right from the homepage when you look at it. It's goodness, I can't remember. It has a really cool name too. Anyway, I'd be distracted and I'm the host, so I'm not going to go poking around for it now.
You can put the name of her blog in the comments.
Yes. Piper says that she would love to meet up with any and all of us in Boston or Vegas. That's so nice. Maybe. Oh, and Jason says he's been studying Stoicism a lot recently.
Oh, awesome.
Wow, quinky dink.
Maybe we'll just have to have our own writing retreat. Everyone can meet up with us.
That would be amazing.
It would.
All right. So what's up with you, Miss Rhonda?
Let's see. My what's up this week is I finally found my bluegill honey hole. So I mentioned recently I now live on a mill pond. Well, actually, for the third time in my life, I live in a mill pond. And so I just took up fishing this summer because someone made it look really interesting to me. And lo and behold, it is really interesting. So last night I found my little place to fish for my little bluegills, and I caught 10 monsters yesterday. I was having a lot of fun.
So when you catch them, do you look at them and just appreciate their differences and then give them a kiss and throw them back? Or do you have a little ritual with them or what?
Or do you
all
eat
except
them?
For the kiss? Well, eventually we will catch enough for a fish fry. But I mean, now that we know where they all hang out, that's a reality. It's going to be a reality. But right now I just look at them in the sun. They're so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Just the colors are just so amazing in the sunlight. And, yeah, I don't kiss them though.
All right. Shell says, Jason says his what's up is he fixed a bunch of plot holes. It makes his book a little harder with having another kind of main character, but it has fixed many problems in my story. That's awesome when you can break a dam like that. And I just wanted to say Shell's blog is curatedfaith.com.
All right.
All right. Any other? I don't think we missed any other what's ups in the chat. So I guess it's time to move on to the topic du jour, which is plot outline for NaNoWriMo Cozy Mystery. And Rhonda, you are our resident cozy expert, primarily because you have previously partnered with someone who you said could plot a cozy in her sleep. Am I wrong?
That is completely accurate. Yes. My mother, she's sometimes in the chat as BB. She has been reading cozy mysteries since she was a child. Started with Nancy Drew, probably even before that. And I myself started with Encyclopedia Brown and Harriet the Spy. Those are cozy mysteries for children. So yeah, she is such a fan of cozy mysteries that she can outline without even trying.
You know, it's funny. I never realized that what was the one you said to your mom?
Nancy Drew.
Oh, Nancy Drew. Sorry, my mind went blank. I never thought about that as a cozy mystery, but my mom used to take. You'll love this story, Rhonda. She used to take me antiquing, and we would find old Nancy Drews, and I have a collection of them somewhere in her basement, and I read them too. And I never thought. I'm like, oh, that now it makes sense to me. So,
yeah,
awesome.
Well, in my newsletter, I mentioned Sherlock Holmes as a dry and stuffy, not a cozy, but you said that actually that's like one of the first cozies, right, Rhonda?
Yeah, because he was not. The reason for that is because the murders don't take place on scene, which is a definite important point for cozy. And also, he was an amateur sleuth. He wasn't a police officer. And that is also very important. The sleuth has to be an amateur. So he would qualify.
Okay, yeah. And we had kind of a list of things that would differentiate a cozy from a regular mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the first things we talked about. Is a normal mystery, usually the detective is like a legit detective for the police force or a retired one or something like that. And you're saying to qualify as a cozy, not so. They absolutely should not be an official.
Yes, the sleuth must be an amateur. No police background whatsoever. They can have a boyfriend that's a police officer. That happens a lot. People fall back on that. But also, they are really good at something else that's completely unrelated. These days, there's a lot of bakery shop type cozy series, quilting, that sort of thing. So there's another sort of a hobby theme running through it, that the sleuth is able to use their common sense to solve the crime.
Which is terrific, you would think, for writers, because I think writers tend to have these sort of hobbies like knitting or baking that they know a lot about. And so you can then mine your knowledge in those fields as some character development, couldn't you?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So in a regular mystery, the victim can just be whoever, whatever. But in a cozy, like you said, the victim, what can it be? A known person? Like, what would be the difference there? Do both have to?
Well, the victim, first of all, they were murdered off scene, off the page, so you don't see the gore and all the gross details that you would see in a thriller or something. The victim can be anybody, but generally there's somebody who everybody wants to see dead anyway. So there's no hard feeling. There's no sadness when the victim shows up.
Okay, so it's not like this young girl was murdered and we need to, like, it's not a sympathetic victim typically.
Correct.
Okay, and you already mentioned a couple of times now, limit your blood, guts, and gore, and nobody wants to see the murder happen in a
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, I know that they'll read up to like the last moments before, a gloved hand pushed open the library door or something like that. So you can get up to the moment of the crime, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then the murder can happen, and 5 seconds later, someone walk into it and see a knife sticking out of somebody's neck or whatever strange way the person was murdered. But you don't see the person actually dying. You don't hear the murder happening. Oh, well, you could hear it through a door, but you don't hear the sounds of like blood and stuff.
It's not like really descriptive, right?
Yes, correct.
Yes. Okay. And then what about
question? Yeah, it's not always just murder though, right? Because in Nancy Drew, it would have been other kind of crimes like missing clocks. And
yep.
Things
Yes.
Like that.
Yes.
Right. You remember that one?
Yeah. Yep. I've got that book. So yes, it can be a mystery of any kind.
Okay.
All right. Well, we're moving right along through our list. So in both a cozy and a regular mystery, you're going to have suspects, right?
Yes.
And red herrings, possibly.
Yes. When you should get to know all of your suspects in the first third of the book. And nobody should be introduced after that first third of the book, because that's cheating. You can't just drop a suspect in. Just like you can't drop in a gun in the final chapter if it's never been mentioned. If we need to explain Chekhov's gun, let me know and we can explain that real quick.
Yes, please do.
Okay. So in a famous book, a protagonist was saved because a gun basically appeared on a shelf and it had never been mentioned in the book previously. And so basically the character was saved because this gun that just appeared on this table, he was able to kill the bad guy. And so the rule is now you mention whatever weapon is going to be used at the end of the book in the beginning.
All right. Well, Piper wants to know a very practical question. When you write a mystery, do you need to know who done it before you start?
No. How easy do you want your outlining to be? If you want it to be easy, yes, you do need to know. But if you enjoy discovery, like I know you're a discovery writer, find out. let it be a mystery for yourself as well. A lot of writers, or there are a number of writers who if they know how the story ends, they cannot write it because it's already been told in their head.
Right. So that was a question I had too, was like, if you're a discovery writer, can you write a mystery? Because to me, I would think that, gosh, it would be really, really difficult to do because you kind of need to know where you're going so you can like hide clues in what they're reading, right?
Right. Now, someone who is got it so ingrained in their mind, like BB does, she can do that without even realizing it. Like we outlined, we kind of discovery blurted words on a page. And when we went through it, everything was there. You know, maybe a little movement or changing up of a weapon or something, but it just becomes ingrained. So that's why it's so important, if you're a cozy mystery writer, to be a cozy mystery reader.
Okay.
Yeah. And go ahead.
I just have another quick question. So speaking of clues, is there a certain number of clues that a writer should include in the?
Not necessarily. I've heard the number 7. That gives people enough, because the cozy mystery reader, they want to solve the mystery along with the detective. And so it's important to make sure you point out all of your clues. Don't make them obvious, but lay out all of your clues, but also throw in some red herrings, because they don't want the answer just given to them. They want to, it's a puzzle for them.
Gotcha.
Well, and I would say that this is possibly a case of, unless you read so many cozies, you can plot one like BB in your sleep, that great books are not written, they're rewritten or edited. So go ahead and get your first draft out and don't worry about it being exactly measuring up to snuff until you go back to do the edit, especially if you're going to do your project as a nano, because you will do a lot of good character work and world building if you are kind of stumped yourself as to who did it, and you could go back in an next draft and plug in the clues that you're missing or the red herrings or whatever.
That's a great idea.
And to make it easier for you, there's a book on Amazon called this is the cozy mystery version of it.
When did that get published?
So this has been out for a few months now.
Okay.
So while you are discovery writing, when you're done with that, you can just, fill in everything, and you'll be sure to not miss any of the important points of a cozy mystery.
That's awesome. Okay. And then for both cozy mysteries and not cozies, you want to avoid Deus ex machina, which is a lot like the gun on the shelf. Like, you don't want just randomly a lightning bolt struck the murderer and now everybody is saved, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Please, no matter what genre you write, do not do this. There is nothing more annoying to a reader that was reading a Christian novel and all of a sudden an angel shows up and fixes everything. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you may feel like it's very spiritual, and maybe this is my Julia Sugarbaker coming out, but let me tell you, it is annoying when somebody is reading a story and then all of a sudden everything is just fixed. That's not good writing. It's not spiritual writing. It is just lazy writing. And I'm going to Julia Sugarbaker out of the way now.
So if you're writing cozy specific, Rhonda, let's talk about the sidekick. Seems to me every cozy I've read has had, I don't know, a bumbling assistant or something to provide humor, comic relief, or. What do you think about a sidekick? Are they essential?
Sidekicks are very important. And the sidekick can be one person through the whole book or series, or it can be someone like we were talking about Murder, She Wrote the other day, how she always had the cop to rely on. He was sort of a sidekick sometimes, but he didn't go through the entire show with her. She might have that lawyer aide through part of it. So there's got to be at least either one single sidekick or one small group of sidekicks that your detective can bounce ideas off of and give the reader more information.
Okay.
And sometimes they can be more popular. Think Sherlock Holmes Watson. I liked him better than Sherlock Holmes as a kid.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did. All right, so we've already had the question, can you pants a cozy? And Rhonda did show her book, which we recommend that you get a copy of that book to help you remember everything that we're about to tell you. Because if you would rather go into National Novel Writing Month with like a little bit of a plan, which is the whole point of Preptober, we're going to tell you how you can plan to write your cozy mystery. And we're going to start with the first 25% of the book. What's important in the first 25%?
This is where you introduce your amateur sleuth and make your readers fall in love with her, or just like whatever you want the readers to feel. So you just start off with every day. Maybe she's sitting in a room quilting something, and someone busts into the house and says, "Oh, there's been a murder. I don't know what to do." And for some reason, the police, they never think that it's a murder. They think it's maybe an accident or whatever. For whatever reason, the police don't seem to want to get involved at first. So the amateur sleuth has to jump to action, because really they're the logical person to solve the.
But that doesn't happen. You don't have them jump in the first 25%, right?
Not in the first 25%.
The first 25%, we're starting off with your readers just like every other day. It was another day in the cupcake factory, and Susie made the frosting too sweet, and so she needed a write-up or whatever. And then you said something about introducing the theme in the first 25%.
Yes. And I can't remember the example I used the other day, but say that this quilting amateur sleuth needs to learn how to let go of something. And maybe it's things or people or emotions or whatever. There's something that they need to let go of.
It was plants. It was plants that you talked about for an example.
Okay, so for example, she's a gardener, and she's got all these plants that she loves, but she can't let go of any of them, so it looks like a confused mess. Well, by the end of the novel, if it's not a tragedy, then she will have learned how to let go, and not only just of plants, but there's something deeper that she had to let go of in order to solve the crime. By the end of it.
Okay, but you said if it's not a tragedy, that doesn't sound very cozy for it to be tragic. There's tragic cozies. Tell me about this.
Well, there shouldn't be tragic cozies.
Okay.
Good to know.
So, all right. So maybe she needed to let go of her plants. And when she did, it made her think about how there might have been a soil fingerprint on the pot or something at the same time as she's handing off that cutting or whatever, right? Like the epiphany comes to her. Okay, well, that's kind of clever. All right. And then,
so like, all right, so let me see if I'm getting this too. So like, let's go with Jamie's cupcake analogy. And she put too much sugar in it, so it was ruined. And then the whole theme could maybe be too much of a good thing is not a good thing.
It could
and
be.
And then by the end, like, and maybe that theme can run throughout, and that the person that actually did the murder wanted like all of the attention at the bake-off, and like they never got all the attention, and then so too much of a good thing, and then at the end she was able to perfect the frosting because she backed off on the sugar, even though she loves sugar. It's like, so like that would kind of be what you mean by a theme, right? Like the theme is in the beginning and would be at the end, but it also has to do with the murder too, right? Or
correct.
Yes,
okay, correct.
I got it.
This cupcake mystery has written itself.
I'm telling you.
Yeah, it has. Actually, I'm totally inspired. So maybe this
You're welcome.
Is trying to kill off someone that's diabetic, and they keep putting real sugar in the. I don't know. Okay, my mind is spinning right now.
There's got to be some sort of bake-off that like every year someone else wins, and that person that wins it every year and they get murdered. So which of the other bakers does it? Which of the other bakers kills them? And it has to, but then there has to be some other reason. It can't be just a bake-off, because otherwise it'll be obvious and too like not multi-layered, in my opinion. So there has to be some other relationship between those two that no one knows about that gets uncovered, that has to do with something that has to do with too much of something is not good. I don't know.
Okay, Jennifer, go back and delete the last 3 minutes, because that's my nano project now.
Okay, no one write this. Right. Or everybody write this, because we know with our prompts how we all get the same prompt and it's a completely different story.
Yeah.
So everyone could write it.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
Fun. All right. So in the first 25%, you're going to introduce your main character. You're going to introduce the theme. Although Piper says in the chat, be careful because she read a cozy that an author actually said in the beginning to look out for this theme and message. Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
That's just bad writing. I don't think it has anything to do with being cozy. I think that's just bad writing.
Yeah.
And
or
then
weak writing. I shouldn't say bad.
Yeah, by the end of this first 25%, dun, 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 a crime has occurred, right? And so you do put a couple of clues here. Can you put clues before the crime is discovered, or do they have to come after the crime is discovered?
Yes. Well, the theme really is your first clue.
Good point.
Yes.
The theme is the first clue. Very good.
Yep. So go ahead and start lightly sprinkling in some clues. But really within the first 50%, all of the clues should be seen.
All right. So that carries us into the next chunk, which we put the next two 25% together. And we're talking about the next 50% of the book. So in the whole 25% of a setup, and then a big old chunk is the following, which you had already mentioned. This is when the amateur, who is not a detective, somehow gets roped in or sucked in to help solve this mystery. Because like you said, for whatever reason, the police aren't interested. That's got to be hard to come up with a fresh why the police don't want. I was reading feathering mysteries, and they often struggled. I felt like, why don't the police care or think it's a murder or whatever, you know? And then what else has to happen? It looks like we've got to introduce the suspects. We've got to get them all in there before the 50% mark, you said.
Yes. So by this point, okay, so at the end of the first 25%, the sleuth is not interested. Either she's never done a crime before, or she's done these crimes before, and the police just need to do their job. Whatever reason, she does not want, or he does not want to get involved with this mystery. So she's got to be provoked. So by the end of the first 50%, she's fully involved in solving the mystery.
Okay. And so more clues obviously are coming in here. But when we get to the midpoint of the book, right? This is the middle of our 50%. So it's the next 25%. Your midpoint of the book is, you said, some sort of trouble that the sleuth is in where she needs to be rescued.
Yes. This is where you may be able to throw some clues in at this point. But yeah, she needs to be rescued. And this is closer to the climax than right at the midpoint. Yes, she needs to be saved from her own self, usually.
Okay. And we had a question from Piper. If your character is in a series of cozies and she keeps learning all of these lessons, how do you keep her imperfect enough to continue the series?
Well, some lessons need to be repeated a few times. Yeah, it just every book has to be, just treat every book as a different book. And your character, think about yourself learning lessons every day in life. So your character is also going to be continuing to learn. She'll get better as a sleuth as the series goes on, but she'll never be perfect.
Right. Because I think just like what Rhonda said, like we all are constantly learning things. So as long as you keep the character consistent in her personality, the theme, and you make sure that the theme is different for every single book, like the next book can't be anything about too much of a thing, of one thing is not a good thing. It would have to be something more like following the recipe is sometimes not the right choice or is the best choice. And it'd be something different. Like it'd be clues. Yeah, it'd be clues that would have to do with maybe her attitude is like, oh, I don't need a recipe. I just do it on my own. And instead she should be taking her mother's recipe that is a tried and true one. You know what I mean? Like it would be a totally different novel. She would learn a totally new thing, but it is a new theme. And so it would stick with the same character, but it would be a different story.
And it doesn't mean that because she learns the lesson in the novel, in the next one, you don't look over at her potting bench and it's overflowing with plants again because she needs to do another purge because she didn't really learn the lesson. She just was taught the lesson. So your character doesn't really have to learn the lesson to be taught it. And that would keep them imperfect, I would think.
That excellent way to put that.
Okay, so Rhonda, you said that the trouble is not the midpoint, but my outline says that it is. So what is the midpoint?
No, the trouble begins. You've seen the murder victim. You've seen all that. And the sleuth is starting to interview suspects and all that. She's gone through her trouble that she needed to be rescued from, and she's starting to learn her lesson. So then by the climax, that's when we find out who the murderer is. And basically the murder's solved, but the story is not over yet.
So you're talking about now the final 25%.
Yes.
Okay, so that would be where the climax happens, pretty much, is 3/4 of the way through. And this is typically that scene where everybody is gathered into the room and the detective starts to say, well, Susie Brown, we thought it was you because you had a bag of Domino's powdered sugar in your suitcase or something. And but no, it wasn't you, right? It's that scene.
Well, before that scene, there's the scene where think of Orient Express when oh my goodness, the detective was about to die, get thrown off the train. And then after that, there was the scene where everybody was gathered into the one train car. So that scene is where all of the loose ends are tied up. There's not a single question left for the reader. Okay. So if you put a clue in the book at some point, they discuss how that was a real clue or if it was a red herring when everybody's in that room. And he'll go to each person individually and say, you were a suspect because.
And let me just say that whether it's right or wrong, there's a whole lot of tell that happens in these genres. Am I mistaken, or have I just only read bad ones?
Well, there's a lot of tell at the end, but still follow your show, don't tell rules while you're writing the rest of the book.
Okay, great. And so your final 25% is the discovery of the murder in that particular scene. And then how do you wrap it up? Because my outline ends at the climax. It says cozy readers want all the loose ends tied up at the climax. So then what's the last 10% or so of your book?
Well, by this time, the bad guy is either taken away by the cops or whatever happens. Sometimes the bad guy dies or whatever, however you end your book. And then you just have your last scene as a wrap up like you would. There are no special rules for cozy mystery.
But there's got to be the wrap up of the theme, like we talked about earlier, right? So it'd be like life is back to normal. She's back in the bakery shop and she's making the frosting the right way.
Yeah, and this last scene would be the perfect spot for that.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that is a pretty look. We even plotted your nano project for you live on the air.
Thank you very much.
Who could ask for more? If there's any other questions, you want to chime in over there in the chat. Now, Jen, what about you? Do you have any questions about cozy, or do you think that this kind of cleared a lot of it up for you?
I think it did clear a lot up. One thing I don't think we talked about that was important to me as a writer and who's a plotter is that Rhonda had told us in our meeting that clues should all be there by the end of the first 75%. Before you get into your last quarter, make sure your clues are all there. There's no clues at the last minute. It has to be done before then. And I think that's important because if that's what your readers are expecting, you need to make sure and do that. And because I don't write cozy, if I were to try this, I might have screwed that up. So I think that's an important thing. Other than that, I think it's kind of exciting. I make kind of, I know that I write romantic suspense. It's not exactly the same thing, but I kind of would like to try cozy sometime.
You should
in the future.
Yeah, because I think that this could be something that would be fun to try. I really thought that maybe I might do cozy for this nano after our outline session. So I think it's a fun way to flex your writing muscles. Yeah. Oh, Piper's saying nano, Jen.
Girl, no. I already have a whole series plotted out, and I have to do that first. But maybe in the future sometime, but not right now. But we are going to talk in a couple weeks. We're going to talk about how to plot a romance. And so you'll see why I'm not doing a cozy, because I am all set in the romance area for sure. That's in 2 weeks.
All right. Well, if there's no more questions about how you're going to plot a cozy mystery for NaNoWriMo, we can move on to the feeding of the backs, which is lots of people's favorite time of the podcast. And it is when we read for our audience our pieces of unedited, written just before the show, based on a prompt, writing pieces. So we will have Jen go first, and she'll tell us what our prompt was for this week. And we'd like to encourage you to set a timer for 15 minutes and take on the prompt yourself, because as she pointed out, we always end up coming up with something so different, and we would love to see your take on this week's prompt, which is...
Before we do that, can I just really quick, Piper says, I can see how I could make my next series a cozy paranormal.
Oh,
very cool. Okay, so on to the feeding of the backs. Today's prompt, I'm trying to pull it up here, were 5 words. And we can't blame Tina today because Tina's not here. So we like to blame Tina when the words are bad. But the words today were plant, public, constitution, suntan, and repetition. And it's funny, is the minute I saw them today, I'm like, I knew where the setting at least was going to be for my piece. So,
okay. Great.
Marnie lifted her hand to hail a cab when something caught her eye. A red flower blowing in the wind, barely hanging onto the plant that had birthed it, beckoned her to approach. Looking both ways, Marnie clutched her satchel to her side and sprinted across Arlington and stepped into the public garden. Sorry. She gingerly touched the bloom and bent to sniff it. No scent, really. Marnie had no idea what type of flower it was. She pulled out her phone and snapped a picture to research it later. She stood and looked at her surroundings. How long had it been since she had taken the time off to walk through the garden or the commons? The summer after she had graduated college, she remembered attending the Scooper Bowl, a glorious event of free ice cream samples everywhere you looked in Boston Common. But that had been years ago. Had it really been that long since she had just stopped the repetition that was her work life to take a stroll in the most beautiful parks in the world? Marnie kicked off her heels and headed down a path that circled the lagoon where swan boat rides were offered. All around, college students lay on blankets, reading or just resting, urging the not quite yet summer sun to offer some sort of suntan assistance. She smiled. When she had been their age, she had done the same. She also remembered how stressed she always was, and how busy she always felt as a college student. Yet she always found time to socialize with friends or to sun in the park. She wished she were that busy now. She really should take some time out and enjoy this city that she had come to call home. Maybe she would hit up a small restaurant in the North End for dinner tonight, or have lunch in Faneuil Hall tomorrow, maybe sneak in some shopping. She'd always meant to tour the USS Constitution. Maybe she could get Lisa to go with her over the weekend. 3, 2, 1.
Stop and smell the roses.
Mm-hmm.
Piper's giving me that because she knows all these places. So.
Was that based on any memories?
Yeah, I mean, like, I love the Boston Common and I spent more time in Boston Common than I did in my mind just went blank again. What is the matter with me today? Then the public garden, sorry. But they're connected, so it's kind of hard to tell the difference, but it's definitely like, it's kind of a tourist spot, but it really is like people that live there. It's the green area of Boston. And so, yeah, it's been a lot of time. And I walk through it a lot because back when I was a kid or in college, I think it was 85 cents to ride the T, and I'm not sure how much it is now. And sometimes you had to have exact change. They didn't have card readers then. And so sometimes we didn't have change. So we would walk, which would be a great distance. We'd walk from college down to like Downtown Crossing to shop, or we'd walk to Faneuil Hall, or even to the North End because we just didn't have the change. And we're like, let's just walk. And so she says, she was just there on her birthday. Aw. And Gigi said, never been there. Jennifer, love the setting. You said, aw, wonderful descriptions.
Yeah,
appreciate
it was
you guys.
description.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah,
I've been there. Like,
great.
yeah, it's because it's like from experience. So that I just felt good. That gave me all the feels writing that today.
Has
so.
Marnie always lived in Boston? I wasn't sure if that was always
I
the
don't know.
case. Yeah. Interesting.
I didn't think she lived in Boston. I think I thought she lived in Chicago, but maybe it's not Marnie. I don't know. It's just a sprint. We'll see. I don't know when I'm ever going to get to Marnie's story. Like, I don't even know how that's going to happen in the next several years, but
I'd like to know how much you've already written about her. That'd be curious for you to go and pluck out and see.
Yeah, I've been compiling it. It's a bunch of random, nothing that fits together very well. So, but I've been like, after this, I'll copy it and paste it into my Scrivener that I have for Marnie. So.
All right. Well, I'll go next just so there's not a whole bunch of me talky in a row. I also took the literal term of plant. I wonder if Rhonda didn't because she is our mystery writer, but here we go. The plant was in the window where it had been since the penning of the Constitution, or so it seemed to Lorelei. She sighed as she crossed to stick her finger in the soil. She grimaced, bone dry. She crossed her father's dusty office and pushed into the bright and sunny living room, squinting at the change. Mom, you need to get some kind of watering system going for Dad's plant, she said, tisking and filling a pitcher at the sink. Her mother, who was stretching before the bay window, assumed a new pose and said nothing. Did you hear me, Mom? Lorelei pressed, then frowned as she tried to remember a plant watering hack she had seen on TikTok, a trick involving an old water bottle and a Q-tip, if she remembered correctly. She resolved to look it up and was a bit startled to hear her mother's voice actually bothering to respond to her. Repetition is only useful in terms of self-application, she said, before dropping from the waist and allowing her arms to flop. What? Lorelei frowned. Her mother righted herself and sighed, toweling off with a small piece of material she kept nearby for this purpose. I'm saying, I've heard you say, water the plant more times than I can count, to both myself and to your father. I'm just wondering how many times you're going to keep trying with us. I'm watering it myself, as you can see, Lorelei huffed, hoisting the pitcher so that it refracted the beams of light pouring in through the massive bay window. She and her mother both stood for a moment, appreciating the dancing dots of light, and then Lorelei scowled as she saw the sun hat-covered head of her parents' neighbor, Mr. Fex, bobbing along the fence line. He appeared moments later where the privacy ended and the much lower, much older chain link began, and Lorelei saw he was pushing a mower. Don't you feel a little weird doing your stretches for the neighbor? She asked her mother, who grinned. My public lives for each daily performance, she said, then put a finger to her chin and bowed. That ain't nothing, Lorelei's father, Ted said, as he appeared from some further recesses of the house. You should see the attention she gets when she's out there nude working on her suntan. Ted, stop. I do no such thing. Dad, Lorelei whined, then brought the subject back to the immediate. You need to start watering that plant. Why should I? Ted said with a wink. I have a lady who comes in here several times a week to water it for me. You're impossible, Lorelei said, vowing for the 100th time to stop being a caretaker for these ridiculous people she'd been born to. Of course, her resolve lasted only as long as it took to give the plant its drink, because her father appeared moments later, putting a hand on her shoulder. Thanks for keeping her alive, he said. She's only still around because of your time and attention. I've never been enough for her, you know. Lorelei could not turn to face those steel gray eyes, as she knew they would be filled with tears, as her own, the same color and shaped, released hot streams of their own. They both knew he hadn't been talking about the plant.
Aww.
Wow. Golly, Jamie, I'm like, oh, this is such a good story. And then you get me in the end. Every time. So not fair.
Oh, that was so good, Jamie. Oh my gosh. Your stories are so good.
Anyone who's listening to this later and didn't catch that, you need to rewind and listen to that again. Like, wow, that was like, bam, right there at the end.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Wow. Also, I really need to know about that Macgyver plant watering system with the Q-tip.
You get one of those like kebab sticks and you just make sure you tape it. So you put a hole in the cap and you put the Q-tip and then you tape a kebab stick and you use the kebab stick to stick it in there and the Q-tip will just drip water into the
no
plant.
way.
Interesting.
Yeah, some guy kept his pineapple plant alive for 2 weeks while he was gone. Lots of nice comments. I appreciate it.
Oh my goodness, my husband deliberately makes comments like that to my daughters. LOL. I'm guessing not the last comment, Piper.
No, I think the new suntanning comment.
Yeah. Such great relationships and dialogue, Shell says. Piper says the risque comment, not the kicker at the end. Yeah, right.
Yes, I appreciate that. That's great. Thanks, everyone.
This is not the first time we've seen Lorelai, right? Or
Right.
have you just
I don't know. I regretted using that name because I couldn't remember how to spell it quickly, and it was a sprint. It was like, ugh, I should have just called her Lori or something. I didn't remember her as a previous character. No.
Gigi says, Jamie, that was awesome. You pull me in and keep me on the edge of my seat always.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
Piper says her daughter hangs up on her husband when he starts. That's
an appropriate click.
Yeah. That's awesome.
All right. So Rhonda, what did you do with these 5 words?
Okay. Well, I got all 5 in.
Yay!
I did too. Yay.
The last one is the very last word because I squeezed it in.
Awesome.
Okay. Rachel, you're out here working on your suntan while I'm breaking my back on that root ball. Rachel opened her eyes to find Martha standing over her. The look on Martha's face told Rachel to put some distance between her body and the business end of Martha's shovel. Without moving her head, Rachel looked around, relieved to see that they were in the more public area of the yard near the sidewalk. Rachel squeezed her eyes shut again, trying to remember why she was on the ground. And another thing, I saw you playing with that blasted cat again. Martha's lips twisted and her jaw clenched. She started sucking out her bottom teeth, making that shrill whistling noise that always made Rachel nauseous. A cat? Rachel rubbed the small bump growing out of her forehead. She slowly stood, stepping on a small zinnia plant that had fallen near her. She noticed her watering can was tipped over next to the ladder. Her trowel was 15 feet past the ladder. She spotted something metal near the trowel and went over for a closer look. Strange, she had never seen this object before, but it looked like she had been using it just moments ago. She jabbed it with her toe, but it did nothing. She cautiously picked up the shiny metal. Along the side was printed USS Constitution. The end.
What?
All right. I love it. I love it.
Yes,
but she was knocked out, right? Something knocked her out. But you started off saying that she was suntanning. So like that threw me off for a minute. But so now there's a mystery element to it.
I know. I must know more.
Yes. So Martha assumed that she was out suntanning just because she was laying on the ground.
Oh, gotcha.
So she wasn't suntanning. So that's sort of their how they deal with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Martha's always complaining, and
she's a Martha.
Yes, exactly. Hence the name. Yes. So anyway, I basically was just trying to get all my words in today.
I love it.
I was trying to do like the beginning of a little mystery because of the today.
Yeah, perfect.
That's
Piper
exactly
says,
what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, something hit her from the sky and knocked her out. Something that says USS Constitution on it, which would be a boat, a giant ship. It's wooden.
You didn't know what it was. Yeah.
Or if someone clobbered her and she just can't really remember because she was just about to put the solving pieces together, and that's not supposed to happen. Like, ooh, this is very juicy. Wow, Rhonda, you've really set up a whole thing for us there in just a few words.
Oh.
Nice.
Well, anybody is welcome to it.
You're not going to continue it?
No.
I have a lot of that too. People are like, ooh, you should continue that. No. Some things just like speak to you and some things just don't. So
All righty. Well, we are going to move along then to our final segment. Oh, wait, Rhonda, yes, your story was awesome. Gigi said she loved the characters and the cliffhanger, and she would love to read more of that. I'm telling you,
You're
Rhonda.
So sweet.
Yeah, go over and read Rhonda's Vella. Rhonda, where is your Kindle Vella posted?
Anywhere you get your Kindle books, you can go to the Kindle Vella app, and it is called The Landon House Stories, Hero for Z.
Yeah, so if you like Rhonda's writing style, you can catch it there. And what is next for you, Rhonda?
Well, now that the Z story is finally done, I'm working on my first, that was a novella. I'm working on my first full-length novel for this series of Cozy Mysteries.
Okay, is that in addition to the Nano that you're doing?
That is going to be the Nano that I'm doing.
Okay, so you're prepping?
Well, it's already prepped, and it's like a heavy outline. It's like a really thick, it's like a 20,000 word outline. So I'm just going to continue with that.
Okay.
Try to get all filled out.
Awesome. All right. And so they can find you on Kindle Vella, and where else can they read your writing?
If you get our museum newsletter, I wrote a huge article this month for our museum newsletter. So most of my writing is in newsletters for the area.
Awesome. All righty. My what's next is I am planning for NaNoWriMo, but I am first implementing the edits on my novel. And I don't know when I'm going to launch the novel. That depends on some things in my personal life, but I have fallen back in love with it. It's great. So I'm excited because when it comes time to market it, it won't be difficult because I know that it will be, I feel like it's a contract with the reader. And before I haven't really felt like marketing what I wrote because it was short. And I just kind of feel like, well, people want a novel. And I finally am going to feel like I have a product that I can market with feelings of integrity. So I'm really excited. I just don't know when I'm going to feel ready to launch it for a bunch of personal reasons, but I'm super excited about it. And I'm implementing those edits right now. And then come November, I'll be actually writing every day again. And I might pick up the writing every day again habit privately, but I've been trying to live stream it and it's just felt too pressureful because people are looking. I don't know, but I just know that my writing got better because I wrote every day. And like I said, I feel like I have a contract with my readers to give them something that's a quality piece of writing, not just a way to kill time. And so I like to keep improving my craft. And the one thing that's improved it the most has been to continue writing. So I want to get back into the daily writing habit. If you want to see the kinds of things that I write, if you like what you hear on the podcast, you could go to www.writingshorts.net and sign up for my newsletter. You get a free short story every month. And we've got some what's next in the comments. Shell says, go ahead.
Sorry. Going to use the daily Inktober prompts as writing sprint prompts to work on my show don't tell skills. That's good.
Great.
Jason says, what's next? Prepping for Nano this month with plotting some. Unsure what to do beyond that to set myself up for success with Nano. We're going to talk more about things like that too this month, like other things that you need to do as well to set yourself up. Like for me, I have to like have meals prepped. I have to like have a game plan for food so that like we can roll with it. Otherwise, like that really does kind of sidetrack me. And Gigi says, Rhonda, when does the next episode of Z come out?
There are 3 that are waiting for approval from Amazon right now. So any day.
Yay.
Usually it's been about 24 hours. So
awesome. All right. So my what's next, I would love to say that I'm going to be able to get some writing and some editing done this week, but y'all heard my what's up. So I'm going to be knee deep in ripping out drywall in my basement, taking and burning brush in the yard and trying to get a tree out of the yard, all that kind of stuff. But what I will be doing for sure, because what I want to do next is, I already told you guys that I have my nano project that I'm going to write. I already have it outlined. I want to create my isolation booth, which if you're new to our podcast, I take a science board, one of those trifolds, and I put my outline on it and I can like stare at it. And that really does help me. It also helps me to remember the story as I'm putting it all together. Like it just kind of re-cements it into my head of what I'm going to be writing. So I'd love to think that I could do that this week. But on top of everything I have going on, I have scheduled a me day, which I never do. But I am going on Thursday scrapbooking for the day by myself.
Wonderful.
By myself at an event here in Michigan. I'm super excited to just go and like just scrapbook and just do some crafting, something creative that isn't writing, be out of my house. I'm not gonna worry about my kids because my dad's taking them for 2 full days and going to do like grandpa days with them, what they're super excited about. And it's like, yeah, so that's happening this week too. And I think that's going to do more for me and my creativity than any other trying to force myself to get back in the game kind of thing. So I will let you know on Friday how that goes for me. So
Well, and you had been talking so wistfully about scrapbooking when it was come up on the podcast before. So it does sound like that's something that's going to really feed your soul. So that's good.
It
I'm so
really
glad
does.
for you.
Thanks. Liz's what's next? Write my short story based on the Inktober prompts. Continue to read through my work in progress.
So
Piper's-
I got to know about Inktober. Are you supposed to write something every day or every week or what? Oh, sorry.
That's okay. No. Wait, somebody brought it up last week. I think it was Liz brought it up last week that it's actually for visual arts. It's and there's a different prompt every day, but they're going to use the prompt just to start writing and to do short. She's working on a short story using it. So it's just another way to like give yourself some creativity.
It is October 1st, so it's not too late to try to jump in.
Happy fall. Happy fall, y'all. Piper says her what's next, working through the blueprint for a book questions to prep my book 4 while also starting the writing. And then Piper says, thinking about your story direction and plot is still working on the story. Yes, that's what I think so too. So I think if I can like carve out some time to work on my board will help me actually get excited about writing again. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome. All right. So I guess that's going to wrap it up for this week. So until next time, this concludes this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. Until we meet again, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.